Let's have a warm welcome for Mr. Al Wade.
Thank you, Michael. All right. Well, hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate you guys having me here today. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Let's make this real interactive. If I'm just up here talking to slides, it's kind of boring, so please jump in, ask lots of questions. We got plenty of time, so there's no rush. So, what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is some best practices on crowdfunding and my experience there and some lessons learned, and hopefully if you guys start your own business, you can take some of those lessons with you. And then I want to talk about the prototype process, how you get customer feedback, because that's really important. Options for raising money, marketing, and then at the end I'm going to show you a real life pitch deck. Here's my experience so far. I've done 4 crowdfunding projects. The first one failed. So that I think is also a good lesson learned, and oftentimes your first one doesn't take. So if it doesn't work, no big deal. Take the next idea and go for that one. In addition to that, I did a couple other ones here. This is the most latest one. It's a smartphone controlled LED handbag. I'll show you guys a demo of that in a second. And then prior to that, I did a similar product like this, but it was an LED art frame. So I did 2 versions of that. So that's been my experience to date on crowdfunding. Michael wanted me to show you the bag in action. So here's just some runway footage from a recent show that we did. I'll pause that. So that was a fashion show in San Francisco. It's a really great opportunity to get the product out there and get some feedback. So Michael, I think you mentioned that you guys are all doing pitches. Is that right? Pitches coming up on Monday. So you guys can critique my pitch. This was the pitch that I did for a TV show called America's Greatest Makers. This is the Cat Clutch. It's an illuminated handbag you can customize with your phone, or just by pressing this button, you can change the LED designs to match your style or mood. We've got elegant and subtle designs, great for a night out on the town. We've got loud and attention-getting designs, and scrolling messages too. Inside the bag, we've got a handy mirror to help with the makeup, built-in lipstick slot, and our most popular feature, built-in phone charger to keep your phone alive while you're on the go. The reason I came up with this product actually, so I showed you a picture earlier of my family and my wife. And so I happen to have a wife that spends a lot of money on handbags, right? She buys like way too much money. And she buys a lot of bags, but she doesn't really use them all. And in my opinion, it's a big waste of money. So I came up with the idea that if I could have a programmable handbag that she could change the design just like you did, that she would buy less handbags, right? That was my theory. Now, while I can't say that's been 100% successful so far, she has bought less handbags, and along the way we did find that a lot of other people liked it, so then we decided to turn it into a product. And originally, actually, it was not meant to be a product, it was just something that I made for her, but along the way we discovered that a lot of people liked it, so decided to take it one step farther. So that's how it started. But let's talk about raising money. All right, so you guys are all here in this business class, so I presume that at some point you want to start your own business, or maybe you have your own product idea. So you have this great idea, then you need to go get some money, right? How do you get that money? All right, so these are really the options that you have. First option is this term called bootstrap, which basically means you pay yourself, right? It's just a fancy term for you pay yourself. A lot of companies start bootstrapping. I started bootstrapping. Dell and Facebook are very famous examples of companies that started out as bootstrap-funded companies. Option number 2 is, of course, crowdfunding. So you guys have all heard of Kickstarter, Indiegogo. Those are the 2 big platforms these days. This is where I've done most of my work, and I'll talk a lot about that today. The startup accelerators are a big thing these days, so I would encourage you to look into that as well. At the time when I started, these weren't as prevalent, but now it seems like there's an accelerator for everything. If you just Google, you guys are right here in Silicon Valley, there's a ton of them. So typically these are fixed length programs, typically 3 months. So you go through there and they give you some mentorship as well. So they have folks that have done this before and kind of, so not only do they give you money, but they also give you help and guidance and maybe even connect you with potential customers for your product. So I highly recommend checking out startup accelerators. It's a good thing these days. With crowdfunding, of course, you maintain 100% of your company. With the startup accelerator, they typically want something in return for their troubles. So they may say, okay, I will give you $100,000 for 7% of your company. Right? That's a typical deal that you would see in a startup accelerator. And then, of course, keep going next levels up. There's angel investors, right? So these are basically some rich guy that has a lot of money that likes to invest in companies like yourself. Anyone here watch Shark Tank? Shark Tank? Okay, so that's a classic example of those are all angel investors. And then lastly, venture capital money, which are professionally managed institutions that typically will give you more money, but they'll also want more control and kind of more participation in say in your company. All right, so crowdfunding 101. You guys both did Kickstarter or Indiegogo? Kickstarter, okay. And then
Kickstarter.
Okay. And then you said you got your project at some point?
Mine came a little late, but they were pretty good about it. They were giving constant updates, letting us know why things were delayed. They gave us little bonuses since it wasn't late. I bought it as a Christmas gift, and it didn't come until, I think, February. Yeah. And they gave us a little card to give to the person, like, hey, this is what I got you, but the Kickstarter's delayed. Here's the reason why.
Well, that's good. That's
so
good.
They were really good about it.
So they did a good job.
Yeah.
So not all of them do that. So you had a good.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Good to hear that. Yeah. So these days, Kickstarter, and you think, it used to be Kickstarter was the big one, but as of late, Indiegogo has really started to pick up. I had a couple friends that just launched a campaign on Indiegogo, and they were sort of debating which one to go, and they did some research, and evidently Indiegogo has more tech projects, actually. You can look up their numbers and see which ones raise the most money. And evidently, from their research, Indiegogo is actually raising more money in the tech space, so for what it's worth. But the great thing about it is it really allows you to test your market with a minimal investment, right? That's the great thing about crowdfunding. So if you have an idea that lends itself to crowdfunding, highly recommend you consider going down that path, because customer feedback is the most important thing you can do as part of your early product process. And I'll talk more about that in a second. So basically, as a creator, what you do is, as you guys know, is you say, okay, I have a goal, I want to raise $10,000, and then you get people to back you. And if you meet that goal, money goes to you. If you don't meet that goal, no money changes hands. So it's pretty simple. And for their troubles, the platform will take basically 8 to 10%. 5% for them, 3 to 5% for PayPal fees or money transfer, whichever service the platform happens to use. Okay. All right, so I always like to throw this out there. So you guys had a good experience on Kickstarter, which is great. Not all of them turn out well. So I always like to kind of show you a worst case scenario and some things that you would want to think about when you go down an endeavor. But the point is that a Kickstarter that doesn't get funded is no big deal. Like I said, my first Kickstarter didn't get funded. I raised $600, right? Nothing happened. But it was great because I had this idea and I didn't waste more time on it because it's something that didn't resonate with customers. You know, the community spoke. It's not something that people wanted, so I didn't waste any more time, and then I moved on to the next idea. So that's really the great thing, I think, about crowdfunding, is it lets you get that validation. And then I always tell people that a successfully funded Kickstarter project can be a very public failure, right? And so let me give you an example. This is a case study. This is quite old, actually, but I think very relevant. So this was a guy based out of San Francisco, and he had this idea to do an iPad stand. I think this might have been 6 or 7 years ago. So good idea, as you can see, he raised $35,000. And you can see some of the comments on his page at the beginning of the project. So, great idea, great design, can't wait to get it. Everyone's like really happy, this is gonna be awesome. And didn't go well. He wasn't able to deliver. I'll talk about some of the reasons why. And then now you can see, and basically his customers all turned on him, right? One customer took the time to actually Photoshop his picture, turned it into a monkey, which is completely rude and inappropriate, posted his address, people threatened to sue him. It just really was bad. It really turned out ugly. And the guy was actually a good guy. He just went into it. He'd never done that before, so he didn't have his manufacturer set up. So a lot of people have this great idea, but they can't execute, right? That's actually a big problem with Kickstarters. It's great that you guys didn't have that. So at the end of this day, this guy's sort of public reputation was destroyed. He had to move back to New York, and you can see this quote here that his backers can give you massive support, but they can also tear you down if you fail. So I don't want to freak you guys out or scare anyone, but the point is, like anything in life, go into it prepared. Don't go in half-baked, right? Because again, with crowdfunding, it's your name, right? It's not Apple or some company. If it doesn't work, it's you, right? So just be careful. And I'll talk about some of the things you can do to where you don't fall into that. And this is actually the most important thing. So if there's one thing that you take away from this talk, it's this step here, which is specifically when you have your idea, take the time to, I always say, interview 100 people about your idea before you take the next step and go on to manufacturing. So let me give you guys a real life example. So for this idea here, okay. So can you see the difference between this one and this one? Anyone? What jumps out at you? Right. So I thought as an engineer, this was a good idea, right? Because I thought, hey, it's LEDs, let's get the maximum brightness, in your face. And when I actually went and talked to my customers, a lot of them are, 35 to 50-year-old affluent female, right? So we sell this handbag for $450. So it's not super cheap. I'd like to get the cost down, and I'll talk about that later. But the point was that demographic did not like this. They wanted something that was more elegant and subtle, right? And that was a big deal for them. So the takeaway is, had I not taken the time to go do those customer interviews, I would have went to market with this, which wouldn't have resonated with my customer, right? So just a real life example of why it's so very important to get that customer feedback. And that's also, that's also the great thing about crowdfunding, because crowdfunding is customer feedback, right? You have people, just like the comment page that I showed you before, people comment and give you feedback about your product and your idea. So I highly recommend, if you guys haven't heard about this, a little research, Lean Startup by Steve Blank. He's a professor, he teaches out of Berkeley. So he really preaches this concept of doing these customer interviews, so a little research you can do there. And there's also a science on how you actually do the interview. So I won't go into all the details here in the interest of time, but there's a really good book, it's free, called Talking to Humans. So definitely check that out. It's a quick read, I think it's like 20, 30 pages. And it takes you through the structure on how you do those 100 interviews. Because you don't want to sort of lead people to the answers. You want to ask questions in a certain structured way, and that it speaks to that. Questions so far? Okay. So you do your 100 interviews, and then you take that feedback and you find your prototype. Right? That's all part of the process. Nobody ever gets it right on the first version. If they do, don't believe them because they're lying. And so you get that feedback, and then once you have something that's got the feedback, then you go big. Go get your manufacturer, do your crowdfunding, etc. So again, big takeaways, don't skip this step. Most people do, by the way. Yes?
Are you a sole proprietor, or did you form a corporation?
I did an LLC, yeah, which I recommend. LLC, go to legalzoom.com. It's like $500 to incorporate. And that way, if, let's say worst case, that catches on fire, somebody sues me, then I don't lose my house. So the example I gave before about the guy that did the iPad stand. So one of his big mistakes is he did not have his manufacturer picked out before he went on crowdfunding. So if you go on crowdfunding, highly recommend, make sure before you launch, you know how you're going to get it manufactured, right? Because what will happen, worst case scenario, you launch this thing, everybody wants it, it turns into this big success, and then now how are you going to make it, right? And now you have this situation where you've set a deadline. Most people set their deadline a little bit too aggressive, right? Because we want to make everyone happy, and I'll give it to you by Christmas. But then there's always stuff that comes up, Murphy's Law, unfortunately, with this kind of stuff. So there's a few ways you can go here, depending on really how much time you have. So in my case, I have a full-time job and a family, so I have limited time. I have my nights and weekends. So if you have limited time, then probably what you want to do is these days you can find a manufacturer that's sort of like full service. So they'll give you a project manager, they'll kind of manage it for you, right? You still do your own engineering in your product, but they'll manage the supply chain, sourcing all the parts, making sure the quality is good. They'll take care of that for you. You just got to make sure that you have a good relationship with that manager. Number two is more the do-it-yourself model. So you can, get on a plane if you're doing something high volume. You may want to go to Asia, for example. Hop on a plane, go tour factories in Asia, but you would need to plan on multiple trips back and really manage the project yourself, right? And that's a big time commitment. So be careful there if you choose that option. And then option three is if it's a small quantity, and I would actually recommend this, if you're not making that many things, which for a version 1.0 product is actually a good idea to keep the quantity small, because you're going to get that feedback for version 2.0, is make it yourself. If the quantity is small enough, right? Again, it's the balance. So if if you're like in my case, in my first LED frame, I had to make 500. That was too many. I'm not going to make 500. I don't have time for that. So I went with a manufacturer in Asia. So the message there is just balance your time, and you don't want to overcommit yourself. Okay, marketing. Marketing is a big deal these days, as you guys probably know. I assume here everyone is on social media? Yes? Okay. What I'll say about social media is that these days you have to do it, but set your expectations accordingly. And quality is more important than quantity. So let me give you a real life example. So, for fashion, Instagram, anyone here on Instagram? Instagram's a big deal in the fashion world, right? So you need to be on Instagram. So we, over the past year and a half, have built up 1,000 followers on Instagram, which is, doesn't sound that impressive, but it took us a long time to get those 1,000 followers. I don't think that a single one of those followers actually bought one of these, right? So I'm not saying you shouldn't do social media because you kind of have to these days, but just set your expectations accordingly. So to make that real, I had a magazine by the name of Architectural Digest reach out to me about 6 months ago. I don't know if you guys know that magazine. It's for people that are really into high-end houses and architecture and design. So I thought, why would this magazine be contacting me, whatever. Okay, so I gave them my standard pitch deck. I said, okay, you want to write an article? Great, go to town. I didn't think anything of it. So they post the article and then had 5 sales the next day, right? And yet I have these 1,000 followers on Instagram, no one bought anything, right? And I spent all this time getting those 1,000 people on Instagram, not one bought something. Out of the blue, Architectural Digest, 5 the next day. And so then I was like, okay, what's going on here? I thought about it some more. And people that buy that magazine are really into high-end design, right? They are more in the 35 to 50-year-old affluent female demographic, which was my target demographic at this current price point. So then it made sense, right? That's my target demographic. Resonated, sold 5, right? So that's, again, I think the key message there is it's more important to focus on your, as you mentioned earlier, your target audience, and not so much broad. People get kind of caught up in, yeah, okay, my video had 1,000 views. So what, right? If it's not the right 1,000 people, that's what I would say. Okay, if you're doing Kickstarter or Indiegogo, plan on doing your own marketing. So a lot of people think, okay, just because I'm on Kickstarter that everyone's gonna come to me. That's actually not true, because if you follow Kickstarter, when I did it, they had 150 other tech projects going on at the same time as my tech project. And I think nowadays there's like 500 or 600 tech projects going on at any given point in time within their 30-day funding window. So there's so much stuff out there, they can only feature a handful. So if you're lucky to get featured, great, that's kind of like gold, but don't plan on it. Plan on doing all of your own marketing. In fact, what they'll tell you is that you should, before you launch, you should actually get a mailing list of 1,000 people that are interested. I know it sounds like a lot, and that's a lot of work, but if you do the math, it sort of makes sense. Because in the crowdfunding world, you want to reach half of your goal within the first 2 days. That's sort of the magic formula. So if you have 1,000 people signed up to your mailing list, and let's say 10% of the people actually buy, then you can do the math. Okay, 100 people bought. Does that 100 people that bought get me to my half of my funding goal? Right? Simple math, right? But that's the point, is if you don't have that initial customer base and you just launch, which is exactly what I did with my first Kickstarter project, right? Which wasn't a bad idea, right? So my first idea was a smartphone breathalyzer. So a little device where you blow into it, tells you on your phone if you've had too much to drink, right? Some people have actually taken that idea since I had it and went on. There was one guy who was on Shark Tank, same idea. I talked to some of those guys, and so it was a good idea, but I didn't do the marketing, right? And I paid the price, as you guys saw. So definitely key message there. Has anyone heard this thing? If I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter. Okay. It's very true, and I know you guys are doing pitches on Monday, right? It's so very true with your pitch, to make your message short and sweet. And it's especially hard for, is there any engineers here in the room? Any techies? No? Okay. So maybe I'm the only engineer, but especially for engineers, technical people, it's very hard to do that, because you want to go into all the gory detail. I can tell you all about how this works, Bluetooth, the circuit board. You're not going to give a shit about any of that stuff, right? You're going to care about what it does, right? So the point is, keep your message short and sweet. And I think Mike is a great mentor there in how he does his presentations. Okay, I think we talked about this one already, targeting, marketing, and making sure you're hitting your target customer.
So were your social media followers, were they organic, or were you paying for advertising?
No, we didn't pay. We didn't
So it's
pay.
all organic.
It's all organic, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's all about budget. So I think you should do those paid advertisements and things like that if you can afford it.
I feel like that's interesting that you didn't have a higher return rate if they were all organic. If they're all finding you, you'd think they'd purchase.
There's a lot of, when you do stuff like this, you'll get a lot of feedback that, hey, I really like your idea, I like your product. But that doesn't really mean that I will buy your product, right? So there's a big difference between someone liking it versus actually getting out their wallet. So, but no, it's a good observation. All right. Okay, video. So Kickstarter video, again, back to the short and sweet message. Keep it under 2 minutes. Anything over 2 minutes, people are gonna just lose you. You're gonna lose them. And so, real life data, my first video was 3 minutes and 44 seconds. And that's the nice thing about these platforms, is they give you nice data and analytics, right? So I can see that only 16% of the people actually watch the full video. And so the second video, I still didn't listen to my own advice. It was still longer than 2 minutes, but 29% of the people watched the whole video to completion. So again, keep the message short and sweet. And with crowdfunding, the video is actually your most important marketing asset. That's the thing that's going to get people to buy you or not buy you. So you really need to have a really kick-ass video. The point here is you can do a pretty good video on a budget. You don't need to hire a film crew and spend, professional videos these days. Well, the friends that I just know that did their own video, I think they paid $20,000 or $30,000 to produce a video, which is a lot, right? Now they actually had some funding and they had the budget to do that. Great, but most of us don't have that luxury, myself included. So, with video, it's all about the lighting. You can get some cheap lights at Home Depot for $20. You can get a microphone for $25. Good audio. The point is, you can make a decent video. You don't have to spend a lot of money, but do make yourself a good video. Because if your video sucks, no one's going to buy it. That's pretty clear. Okay, so I talked earlier about kind of the strategy with crowdfunding and kind of how the funding works. So what people will tell you is that you want to basically reach half of your goal within the first couple of days. And there's actually statistics out there that if you don't do that, I didn't know the exact stat, but there's a high percentage of projects that will fail. So you might think that, okay, well, I have, in this case, 60 days. Most campaigns are 30 days. You might think, well, okay, I didn't meet my goal, half my goal within 2 days, but I still have 30 days left. Most of the play that you get is when you initially launch. And so if you don't have that big momentum, you're probably not going to get there. Right? Again, back to having that user list of 1,000 people signed up on your mailing list. So very important.
Like sort of penetrating the market with a very strong branding, like before you sort of like release any products for like whatever you're working on? Because
tell me more.
Oh, like you're establishing yourself in the market more so, like so, like the separation process.
Yeah, I don't think you need to have for crowdfunding. I don't think you need to have a big product.
Oh, okay. Just in general, when you like receive.
Yeah, because it's really more about the product and you as the creator, right? Because people are buying into your story, right? You don't have a brand yet because you're not a real company, right? So people don't really expect that. It's more about, who are you? Why are you qualified to deliver this? What have you done in the past? That's really, it's more your personal brand, I would say.
Oh.
The company brand, worry about that later.
Because I was more thinking about like the relation between sort of the intangible, like personal stuff that you put into it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feed into like you might end up leading a company or I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, but I would consider that phase two.
Phase two.
Yeah. So for example, in my case here, we don't really have, none of you have heard this before. We don't really have a brand. We didn't spend a lot of money on the brand. Those are all things we can do later after we validated that the product is a fit. Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah. I thought I would show this because I think this is interesting on the type of people that, and you guys are good examples here, that back Kickstarter projects, which are typically what we refer to as early adopters, right? So these are people that are like the new stuff, cutting edge, I want to be the first guy to have this new thing, right? That's crowdfunding people. And so in my case, I read some stats on these guys, and I found that my backers, on average, had backed 27 other projects, which is a lot, right? That's actually a lot of money if you think about it. 10 of them had backed over 100 other projects, and one guy had backed 567 projects. Completely crazy. Right? I actually talked to that guy. He was really nice. 66% of the backers came from Kickstarter referrals, and the rest came from my own marketing. And 30 people canceled, right? So that's the other thing that you don't really think about is some people will back you and then they'll cancel because they see another project that they like better, take their money out, give it to the other project, right? So if that happens to you, don't be surprised. It's very common. But the takeaway here is the Kickstarter backers are early adopters. And so it's not reflective of once you're done with your crowdfunding campaign and you're out in the real world, normal consumers don't behave like Kickstarter people. So you may think, oh, I did great on Kickstarter. Now, what does life look like post-Kickstarter? Now you're out in the real world where you don't have all those early adopters and you don't have all these crazy new people coming to you. That's the point. Okay, so let me kind of wrap up my 2 first Kickstarters, and then I'll get into where this is and pitch deck and how to pitch to investors. So, great learning experience. Michael asked me, for example, why did I do this? Right, I have a full-time job in Silicon Valley. For me, it's all about the experience. It's doing something new. It's challenging yourself. It's meeting new people. It's building your network. I have the opportunity to talk to you guys, which is great. I would have never had that had I not done this. So that was actually my main motivation. Even if you don't, like a lot of people do a Kickstarter project and they don't take it farther, right? They just do it and, hey, I did it. I had that experience and I'm good. I'm done, right? And you just stop there and that's totally fine. Because, I believe that those skills that you learn from that are transferable to whatever you do. So for example, in my case, before I did this, I was really bad at marketing. Engineers, I'm an engineer at heart, are notoriously bad at marketing, right? Again, that if I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter. So beefed up my marketing skills, which is really important for an IT guy, which is my full-time job. And that discipline to do the customer interviews and get feedback before you kind of take the next level, you can take that skill in anything you do, right? So for example, my job as an IT guy, I'm paid by my company to deploy software to my internal users. And if my users don't like my software, then I get a black mark. So now I spend a lot more time beta testing and getting feedback from my users before I go broad and wide, right? Which is something I learned from this experience. So again, transferable skills in whatever you do. Now, on the downside, it's a lot of work. I don't want to lie about that. I have a full-time job. I have a wife and 2 kids, a very demanding wife, as Michael knows, my wife. And sacrifice too many weekends and nights, very taxing on the family life, right? It's basically like having 2 jobs, right? Do your real job, then come home and do this job. So, philosophically, we only live once, so make sure you balance your personal life and your work life and your aspirations. That's the takeaway there. Everyone's balance is different, so you have to decide there, but just take that into consideration. Financially, those 2 projects raised $80,000. I basically made a little bit, I think maybe $5,000 in profit, right? I definitely didn't get rich. And so I could have made more money actually mowing lawns. All that time I spent, if I just mowed lawns around my neighborhood, I would have made a lot more money than I did on those 2 projects, right? So the takeaway is, great experience, but if you want to make money, at least in the hardware business, you have to scale up and go big, right? So I sold those picture frames 500. If I really wanted to make money, I need to sell 10,000, right? So you got to take it to the next level. You need to get an investor. Once you get your volume up to 10,000, then your unit cost goes down substantially. So you want to scale up, you need more money, right? So that's what I'll talk about next. So let me just yeah.
I'm sorry, you said that you manufacture in Asia.
Yes.
How do you stop them from creating duplicates of your product at a larger scale or lower price?
You can't. It's going to happen. And the only thing you can do is stay ahead and make sure your product has more innovation, is more innovative product than the copy, right? You do have the benefit of being the first person there, but at the end of the day, if this is a product that resonates, guaranteed it will get copied. Even if I didn't manufacture in Asia, someone will still copy it, right? So it's a great question. And even the factory that I spoke to, they're very reputable, but they told me, hey, the minute we start doing this, other factories are going to see this and they're going to copy this idea. So that's just a fact of life these days. nothing you can do.
So following up that question, so how did you deal with the challenge of like whether or not like you want to invest full time in your IT, like full time position versus like
Yeah.
like you have this vision for this product and like what if I took this to the next level? It's like how did you sort of
Yes. So here's the great advantage you guys have over me. You're young and I'm old. Okay. It sounds funny, but it's very true, right? So I wish that there was some guy that gave me this talk when I was in my 20s, sitting in the chairs that you guys are sitting in today, right? I didn't get the entrepreneur bug until I was in my 40s, right? So when you're in your 40s, you're married, you have kids going to college, you take less risk, right? I would love to quit my job and do this full time, but if I do that, my wife will divorce me the very next day. Guaranteed. And Michael can attest to that. So your risk level.
we move out?
Yeah, we already had this conversation with her. She's been very clear. She's like, I will divorce you. There's no, we'll take 50% in California. Anyway, so, but that's a great question, right? And so that's why I'm sort of envious of you guys because you have time. And if you do want to do something like this, now is the time. Do it now before you get like Michael and I and turn into old guys. So it's a great question, and again, very envious of you guys because you have the benefit of youth, and you can do something like this. Anyway, so let me take you through. You want to go to the next level, right? So all the stuff I showed you was fine, right? But you got to kind of polish it up if you want to talk to an actual investor. So what I want to show you next is the real life pitch deck. So let me take you through this.
Al, there's a question.
Yep.
How did you get their contacts with the venture capitalists?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Those guys will not take cold calls. In fact, I talked to one. I said, I have 5 people emailing me every day. I just hit delete on the email. I only take calls from referrals. So in our case, we went through a retail accelerator, which is this accelerator I talked about before, about how to get yourself into retail. And the retail accelerator knew this VC. So it's all about connections, to answer your question, right? And it's hard, right? Because you don't have any connections right now. But the point is, as you go through these programs, be it a retail accelerator, be it crowdfunding, because you'll meet, when you do a Kickstarter, you'll meet people there, people will contact you, you start to build your network, then you'll get all those connections. It'll just happen organically. Okay? So this is our slogan, again, back to the pitch, the power of the pitch. What is the one sentence that describes your product? Okay? We make a handbag that never goes out of style. And some visual imagery, okay, you sort of get it, okay, it's a handbag, it's programmable with a phone, that's it, right? You don't need to go in my case, again, I'm an engineer, right? So I want to go into all this gory technical detail, but that's really the message that you want to leave people. Okay, and then investors, they want to know about you, right? Because at the end of the day, your product has to be, sorry, this is really bright, I'm sure it's off. Your product has to be good, but they're just as interested in you and what you've done, right? Because you can have a great idea, but if you can execute, it doesn't matter. And so, who are the founders? Okay, in this case, this is my wife, the one that would divorce me that I talked about earlier. She's the US head for a Chinese open source hardware company, so she's got a lot of connections in Asia, which is great for this kind of thing, because we need to make it there. Myself, 22 years in IT, 3 funded Kickstarter projects. All right, so a little bit about you. And then, as the person asked in the back, what's your market, right? At the end of the day, the investor is giving you money, they want to make money back, so they want to know what's your target market. So in our case, global handbag market, this is public information, so for whatever you're trying to do, chances are you can just Google and find out what the market size is. In our case, handbags are a $106 billion market. In the US, it's a $12 billion market. And then specifically, this particular bag is what we call an evening bag, right? So we're not going after the whole handbag market. No one would believe that. This is more believable, right? This is something that you would take out, nightlife type of thing, which it turns out is 20% of the US handbag market, or 2.4 billion, right? Now, even within here, what I probably should also do, which I don't have yet, is even further segment this to the light up handbag market, right? Which there is no market for that. That's the challenge. It's a new market, so I don't have any data there. But someone would ask that question. Okay. So then, the investors, they want to know a little bit about your journey, right? What's your story? Where did you come from? So, give them your timeline. Okay, in my case, just like I told you guys, I started this pixel frame back in 2013, did a prototype with my wife, tell that whole story. Same thing I told you, did a Kickstarter, TV show, selected by Foxconn is our manufacturer. Foxconn, you may have heard of them, they're the same company that makes the iPhone, right? They have an incubator program. So that's another thing, actually. A lot of these big companies want to find guys like you that are very early that have these ideas and work with you and incubate you, right? So they can get in at the very beginning before your idea blows up and becomes the next big thing. So there's a lot of programs out there for that, as we found. And then our beta shipment. Okay, and then a little bit of education. So in our case, we're pitching to males, right? Males don't know, men don't know anything about handbags. I didn't know anything about handbags, actually, before I started this project. So my wife actually put this slide together. So a little bit of education, right? This is a resin handbag. These are other resin handbags that you can buy. This is what they typically cost. Educating the investor so they know kind of what your space is all about. Okay, we went through this retail accelerator last month, or 2 months ago. So a little bit about the results of those and some of the retailers that were interested in working with us. Okay, then you got to educate them on the actual product. Okay, so what are some of the features? 512 LEDs, has a built-in phone charger. This was another thing that we discovered along the way back to our target segment, is that there is, turns out, is a market of people that want vegan-friendly handbags. No leather. No cows were harmed. Okay, that's actually a big deal. We think that's about 20% of the market. So that's something that you should market. And then battery life, 8 to 10 hours.
Did you mention Amazon Launchpad in the...
Yes.
Can you tell more about that?
Yes. So Amazon is kind of trying to copy Kickstarter, right? So they launched about maybe a year and a half ago a program called Launchpad. It's actually pretty nice. We're on there, and so what they do is they kind of go after guys that already did a Kickstarter. So okay, you did your Kickstarter, now here's a place for you to sell. It's kind of a startup-friendly place. It's pretty good. They give a pretty nice margin. So for example, my pixel frame, I sell that right now. I sell it to them for $172. They sell it for $225. So their margin's pretty low, and I get a decent price. So it's not bad. It's not bad. Now the only thing I would caution you with retail, in Amazon I would include in retail, is the terms. So they will, the way Launchpad works is they'll issue me a PO, say, okay, Al, I want 5 or 10, I ship it to them. They can return it at any time for any reason. So just because they bought 10, they could ship all 10 back tomorrow just because, right? That's part of the deal. That's just how retail works. It's not really fair, but that's life. Everybody does that. So just know that going in. Yeah, good question. Okay, so and then the VCs are going to want to know about your target customers. Who are your target customers, right? And specifically, which segment? Break it down, right? Hi, I'm Helen, 35 to 60-year-old executive, owns 20 plus handbags, shops at Neiman Marcus. What's important to her, what magazines does she read, etc. Know your customer. Gifter Gary, this was something that we learned. I didn't think about this. Gifter Gary is the husband of Hi and Helen, right? He's actually one of my target customers. 40% of my sales are from men. Men buying this as a present for their wife. Didn't know that. Now I can target this guy. Where does he shop? What blogs does he go to, right? That's important to know. And then millennials, right? Millennials, because of our price point is high, we don't really have any millennial customers right now, but if we can get the cost down, that would certainly fall into our customer base as well. Then investors are going to want to know who's your competition. That's very important. Who else is already in this market? What's their price? Why is your product better than your competition at the end of the day? Right? That's what they want to hear. So as you can see here, our closest competitor is a company out of the UK. They make a similar product. Ours is a little bit better because we can do full color, as an example. Also, our price is a very significant difference in price, as you can see here. Chanel just released a handbag that costs $9,000. Okay. Anyone can afford that one? I can't. So get all that documented. And this is probably the most important thing for the investor is the customer validation, right? So they're taking a chance on you. They want to know that there's actually people out there that want your product, and they want to hear that story and hear that testimonial, right? So they want to basically see evidence of customers that love your product and what was their experience. So lots of pictures, lots of quotes, very important message as part of your pitch. And then roadmap. These guys want to know where you're going, right? So you have a product now. To your question, how are you going to stay ahead when the Chinese factory copies you or someone else copies you? What are you going to do, right? So in our case, I showed you the higher resolution display. This is a prototype. That's one idea. And then we also got a lot of feedback that not everybody likes this hard clutch, resin bag form factor. They want, the soft leather bag, as an example. So this is another roadmap item. And so when you pitch to these guys, if you actually have a prototype you can show them, it makes it much more believable, right? So I could say on my slide, I'm going to do a soft bag, but if I pitch them and say I'm going to do a soft bag, and here's a real life prototype, then suddenly I have more credibility. So it's always good to actually show, proof of what you're doing. Not that people don't believe you, but as you guys know, seeing is believing. And that's it. That's it. There's my email there, so feel free to email me if you have any questions. But thanks again for the time, and if you have any other questions now, or email me later.
Does anyone have any questions for Al now? Go ahead, Courtney.
Well, I could just keep going. So if you go to these, do you go to these trade shows and stuff? Do you find you can sell wholesale to smaller?
Yeah, so we've gone to a few, and that's a really great question. The answer is I should be going to more. Again, limited time, but that's a great thing to do because you have all of your customers there, and it's a great way to get customer feedback.
Like showrooms or things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've done some shows. They've been more kind of on the techie side. We really should be going to fashion shows and wholesaler shows. Yeah, absolutely.
So what you've seen here is an actual real-life business plan, from concept in someone's head to actually hardware and sales to customers. The spreadsheet that you see here talks about the projected revenue. He's done his market research. He knows the handbag market in the world, in the US, specifically the night handbag market, and what field he's playing in. So we've talked about market research. You can look here and see what the top line is for revenue, his cost of goods sold, which is COGS, and what his profit is. And he told you about break even when he first got started. He said he could make more money mowing lawns, but it was a great experience in becoming an entrepreneur from beginning to end. And so these are the type of soul searching things that you have to do if you determine you want to go out and branch off from whatever career path you have to becoming an entrepreneur. So a lot of what you've seen here is actually going to be on the final. The break-even analysis, the business plan here, because the final will be comprehensive. It's going to cover chapters 1 through 16. And he's actually gone through chapters 1 through 16 right in front of you. Real life, real time. by a person that works full-time, but does this in every other waking moment that he's not at his company. So let's give a round of Al, thank you very much.
All right.
I owe
Thanks
you
again.
many.
Yeah.
All
Thanks
right.
for all the great questions too.
So why don't we take 5 minutes to stretch? We'll see you in exactly 5. And Bevo, I have a document for you. Come back.